Well, George, how are you today?
Hello, brother Meatball John. How are you?
Good.
Another fine week is upon us. I see you're still on the beach in Hawaii, and I'm still getting ready to board my boat.
I tell you what, today the high was well, it was only in the mid 60s.
Oh, you're killing me.
I left home at between 7:30 and 8 to go get myself a bagel and an iced coffee.
Hmm.
And I had to put pants on. It was like 55 degrees.
John, I'm sitting here in a sweatshirt. I got the fireplace going.
I had a
I got
hoodie.
the, I got the heat on. I got the fireplace going. I'm in a sweatshirt. It's 31 degrees out, and that's been the high for about the whole week. It's
Woohoo.
been in the 20s at night. It's going down to the teens.
Okay.
It's cold as bananas over here.
Ah,
Frozen bananas.
so the Buffalo is dealing with some bad weather. And
Hmm.
today the NFL announced the game would be moved to Detroit.
Okay.
Cleveland and Buffalo are going to play in Detroit. It's still considered a home game for the Bills.
I mean, they must be expecting a blizzard to move it. I just don't remember them ever moving a game because of weather before.
I've
Uh,
heard it be described as a snow event.
mhm.
It's something called thunder snow.
Well, okay, if they're going to get thunderstorms, I've lived through thunder
Does
snow.
it? Okay, so
It's
I don't know.
freaky weird. It is freaky weird. Yeah.
So the NFL said, we may very well be able to get the players in and out, but safely. But the game itself will put a drain on the community at a time when they've got other stuff going on. So it's better to move the game.
You know what? If it's in better if it's in better weather conditions, because Cleveland's not that far from Buffalo, as we know, just a few hours to the west. And the last I saw, they were going to get some snow, but just a few inches.
It's not in Cleveland. It's in Detroit.
Oh,
We're moving the game to Detroit. So the game's going to be in a dome.
okay. Now that's all right. So that makes sense. So they're playing Cleveland, but they're playing in Detroit, which they're going to come back to on Thursday to
Yes.
play Detroit.
Brandon Bean, the general manager, said that they are going to leave after the game and then go back. They're not going to try and stay.
Okay.
All right. So things are a little different. Like Cleveland is predominantly a running team,
Yes.
but now they don't have the weather conditions. Sometimes bad weather is kind of an equalizer, right? It makes
Yes. Right. And they have a better running game than the Bills, I would
they
say.
have a better running game. So this is I'm not sure that there's a feeling. I have kind of a feeling that if anything, the better conditions should favor the Bills a little.
Well, who's going to take the field as quarterback for Cleveland this week, do you think?
Oh, I don't know if they've officially announced it or not, but the expectation is that it's still Jacoby Brissett.
Okay.
I think Cleveland may have announced that their first game with Watson. I think they may have announced it, but it's not this game. It's another week or two before he's going to
Yeah.
play. All right. What are your thoughts on the upcoming game?
All right. Well, I think that the Bills should be favored. The last I saw, they were favored by 7.5. And I think that's probably fairly accurate. When you look at Cleveland's offense, Jacoby Brissett, listen, he's an NFL quarterback. That's great, which makes him one of the better quarterbacks in the world. But when you talk about in the NFL league, he's not one of the better quarterbacks. He's okay. He doesn't have the receiving staff that other teams like that we've played recently has. He's got maybe one really good receiver that is hot and cold. And they rely more on their run game, which is pounded out by Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I think a little of each, but certainly Chubb is the main guy.
Yeah, and the Bills, I think if they focus on the run game instead of worrying about trying to get sacks, then they should be okay. I don't think that they're going to beat, even if the secondary of Buffalo is second stringers. I don't think the Cleveland receivers are going to be able to do to them what Justin Jefferson did.
Yeah.
And, if you watched that game last week, they really were covering him well, but he's just an incredible receiver and is able to go up and make that catch. And I don't think you have that on Cleveland. So I'm not really as worried about it. It's more comes down to, is the Buffalo offense going to get their act together? And I don't know if you saw that Cover One did a video this week about what's going on in the red zone with the Bills. Did you see that one? It just came out.
I saw it came out. I did not see it.
Yeah. And really, he pointed out that although Josh Allen is making some bad decisions, especially in the red zone, he's not being given the plays that should be home runs in a red zone. It's like he was still on his own 20-yard line, and they're sending out all the receivers into their pass patterns, and he's trying to go through progressions on that short field, trying to go through progressions and find the open receiver who doesn't have far enough to run to get open because they're in the red zone. And so he's trying to force the ball in there and making bad decisions and throwing interceptions. So they're really, according to Eric, which could very well be, he's placing most of the blame on Ken Dorsey for not really giving him the plays that are home run hitters or quick hitters or plays where he doesn't have to go through a progression of 4 receivers to find somebody to throw to when it's second and goal from the 8-yard line. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So he thinks that's where they're really failing. And another thing that he showed that he came up with, and we've talked about this in past games, like we mentioned that, Josh Allen's balls are getting batted down at the line of the scrimmage at an extremely high rate, it seems like. Every game he's getting balls bat down. So he touched on that this week and showing that Josh Allen has been getting the ball out quickly to try and offset some of the quick pass rush, because maybe their line just isn't quite good enough to hold off a 5 or 6 man pass rush. So he's getting it out so quickly that the defensive line is ready for him. When he gets it out quickly, the guy's not very hot. His receivers aren't very far away. So he's throwing straight passes, which the defensive line is actually able to put up their hands and just bat it down. And so instead of lobbing it over them to get it to his receiver, he's trying to throw a straight shot. And so he's still got some learning to do. And, this is not Josh Allen, the MVP candidate. That's for sure. We haven't seen that in the last few weeks. But I do think that it's stuff that can be cleaned up. And I think we're going to see some of that cleanup this week. And I think Buffalo should be okay, especially now that you're telling me they're playing in a dome where weather's not going to be a factor. I really think that they're going to be able to cover the spread this week.
Okay. Since you brought up some of Josh Allen's play, last week he threw 2 interceptions.
Yes.
I think both in the red zone.
And had a fumble.
On the first interception, a lot of people seem to forget it was 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
You can't throw the ball away because he looks like a fool. If you throw the ball away on 4th down.
They could have kicked the field goal. That was the coaching staff's mistake.
Right. They're trying to squeeze. He's trying to squeeze a ball in there. Mm-hmm. The coaching staff decided to go for it. They called the pass play. He decides he's got to try to squeeze the ball in there.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I didn't know, and it kind of came out later in the week, Isaiah McKenzie had stepped out of bounds while he was running his route.
Okay.
Peterson, who was guarding him, sees that and leaves him. He abandons him because, if you step out of bounds, you can't be the first guy to touch the ball.
Right.
He abandons him and starts sliding through the end zone right to left, which is what put him in position to pick up that ball.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the timing, it's pretty clear Josh doesn't realize Peterson is there.
Yeah.
He's anticipating that he's going to stay where he expects him to be.
Right.
He's
With covering
throwing the ball
McKenzie.
in
Yeah.
there. And that ball is heading right to Knox.
Mhm.
Knox is going the other direction to the end zone. The ball's right there. The other thing that I saw, they had that fumble in the end zone.
Yes.
And again, so Allen took the blame for both interceptions. He's not blaming anybody. He says, which is exactly what you'd expect your leader to do.
Yeah.
The defense got a tremendous push off of that on that snap and that end zone play.
Yes.
And it kind of came out. They had seen not so much end zone, but like short yardage when they're going to do a quarterback sneak, where the Bills would bring Gabe Davis over, and then he would put him in motion, and then he would stop, and then at the snap of the ball, he would help the push. They used that to time when the snap would be. Allen goes out there and he's trying at first to draw him off sides, and they're not buying it. So, but when they see him go in motion and then stop, they know the next HUD
is the ball.
Right? So they got off as quick as the snap. And Morris lifts his arm up and then tries to flip the ball the rest of the way because he's got to go back to block. And so they got a shot. It would be behind them kind of to the right. And they got a shot into between Allen's legs. And you can kind of see the ball doesn't make it up to Allen's hands. You see all of it. You see the snap and then you see the ball loose. You can't really tell you can't see it real good, but once you're kind of told what happened and that he tried to flip it, then you can see, oh, that's why the ball, there's no hand on the ball right there. The center was trying to kind of toss it up the rest of the way to his crack.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just didn't work. Apparently, he's done that before, and now it's been able to catch it. So that is something they've done before. It happens. I don't know if that's something you plan and you practice, but it has happened before. Unfortunately, the combination of the two, so it was awful timing. The other thing I'll throw at you, Justin Jefferson makes that tremendous, one of the best catches ever.
Yeah, let's say it. That kid is great. I'm really impressed by his play.
Oh, he had a phenomenal game. He's been having a phenomenal year.
Yes,
really is. If you start listing the top 5 wide receivers, not only is he there in the top 5, you got to think seriously that he might be number 1, especially with DeAndre Hopkins only playing half a year.
Yeah,
the best receiver in the league. As I was watching, there's some wonderful still shots of our safety with his 2 hands above his head, starting to grip the ball.
Right.
And Jefferson's hand is just coming up still. It's very much like, what was it? The game in the Hail Mary, the game in.
Oh yeah, Arizona.
It was like, why didn't you knock? Why are you trying to intercept a Hail Mary? Knock it down. This was a 4th down pass. This is not like, when you see that ball coming, you're thinking, I'm going to get that interception. Great. I'm going to get that. But that was a game winner. It was only about a minute and a half left of the game. If they turn the ball over on downs there, I don't know if the Bills can go to victory formation immediately, but they don't have any time out, so they might be able to. I haven't gone through and seen if they could go, if they have to get a first down, or if they have to run a play before they could go to victory formation. But I mean, that's
even if they don't have to go to victory formation, they're able to punt it down deep into the other guy's end zone with not a lot of time left.
Well, I think it might be where they might have to run some clock, but may not have to punt. I mean, they may be able to run the clock out, but they might have to run a few seconds here, maybe run a play, and then run a play, and then victory for me. So that was the Bills have, as an organization, have found some ways to lose some tough games.
But don't you think that's coaching, John?
Yeah.
Don't you think you coach into these type scenarios? Don't you believe that the coaches are not prepared for
Mhm.
these things as they come up during the game? It's like they don't talk about them, they never envision them, and it's like they're not prepared for these things. And this has happened for the last few years. And then there's some critical moment in a game near the end, and something happens, and they just were like, "Oh, oh,
Yeah.
why did you not? Why didn't you kick that punt right? Why didn't you cover? Why didn't you
13.
knock the ball down? Like 13 seconds. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's happened so many times to them.
To this day, I don't think McDermott has ever actually stated what kick he expected the kicker to kick in that game. Right? I don't think he's ever stated.
Right.
Now, but I hear you. Back around 1986-87, there was a strike. And I don't remember if that was the year they started off with the freaking scab players or not. But they have a shortened season, and Washington Redskins win the Super Bowl. And a few weeks after, at that time, Sports Illustrated was around. And I'm reading a Sports Illustrated article. And basically what the guy was trying to say was, right, famous coach, who was the coach of the Redskins at that time? He would go on to get his own.
Gibbs.
They're like, look, Gibbs was, he and his coaching staff are so organized, and they have this coaching thing down so well that when all the players got a short preseason and things were a little hectic going into, it gave his team a real advantage.
Mm-hmm.
That the coaching staff being ready and having done this before and having some veteran players who have been through it with them made a real difference. Like the premise of the article was Washington may not have been the best team, may not even have been the best team in the NFC if you look at the roster. And the previous year, and well, I guess you would go on to say maybe the next year might even have proved that. But that year, they had a real advantage because of coaching staff. I don't know if anybody asked, I know goal line is something you practice, but do you practice goal line in your own end zone? Is that something you really practice? Like, or is it you treat it very much like you treat it like a short yardage situation, right?
Yeah, like for a third and short, if you get a first down, you treat it the same way.
Is that, or do you treat it differently, or is it the same? And do you practice that? This is an organization. If any team in this league, if you could expect the defensive back coaches and defensive coaches to be reminding and really ingraining into their backfield to knock it down, it should be this team. Mm-hmm. Because 2 years ago they lost on Hail Mary.
Yeah.
But the guy, now this player was there in that team. He just wasn't the starter, right? He was backup.
Yeah.
And even if he wasn't, he's been with the organization a couple of years. It should have been ingrained in him. Now, the other thing that was pointed out was there was a timeout before that play. Nobody wants to answer. Did anybody remind the guys to knock it down? I mean, did anybody remind the defensive backs, you don't have to go for the interception, just knock it down?
All you got to do is you get together and say, let's remind everybody where we are. Here's the situation. Here's the outcomes. If you knock it down, we get the ball up here. If you intercept it, then we maybe get the ball on the 25 or the 20 or let's just knock it down and move on. Anything.
But at that point in the game, Tremaine Edmonds was out, and he's a signal caller.
Yeah.
It's possible that he would have, but he wasn't there to do it. And it didn't come in off, you know what I mean? Like that, those little things are like, is it possible that he would have been a guy to remind the guys and wasn't on the field? He was hurt.
And so there's nothing on the sideline saying, listen, Tremaine's out, you guys. You're going to be the one to remind these guys. Nothing. You're absolutely right. And And when I say coaching, are we talking Frazier? Or are we talking McDermott? Or is it a combination? You know?
I got another one for you. Before the Bills went to the Super Bowl, I think it was not 1990, 89, when they would get ultimately knocked out in the playoffs by Cleveland, going to Cleveland, right?
Mhm.
The opposing team had a defensive back get hurt. So everybody's on the field. The television timeout. Everybody's on the field while this guy's getting worked on, and he comes out. We get back to the game. They line up. The Bills run a quick snap, and they go to a guy, a very young Don Beebe.
Okay.
The Bills have put Don Beebe in the game, first time of this game, and they put him against the replacement defensive back. They were trying to sneak a quick one. They were trying to sneak a quick touchdown.
Speedy wide receiver.
Speedy wide receiver against the defensive back who just came in the game.
Right.
And Kelly threw to him. It didn't work out. But is this coaching staff sharp enough to do that? Now, they may not have the tools. They may not be able to do that specifically. But is this coaching staff sharp enough to be able to take advantage of the situation? And
well, we've seen them go streak and they win 5 games in a row somewhere or 6 games in a row. And we think that coaching staff is great. And then this is the same time period last year in this middle part of the year where everything just seemed to break down and fall apart. And then we start questioning, was it the injuries? Is it the coaching? Or are they just not prepared? Is it, and this goes on. And I have to say that, let me answer it this way. They interviewed McDermott. I don't know if you saw this week. I saw an interview with McDermott. And he was asked, what's going on with the Bills first half versus second half of the games, the last 3 games? They're scoring in the first half, they're getting leads. In the second half, they can't seem to move the ball. And when they do move the ball, they can't score in the red zone. And his answer, and I'm going to give you kind of like a short recap because I can't remember the exact words, but you can look it up. And he said it's like, well, offensively, they're in the second half. He said he's done a study now, what's going on in the second halves. So I'm thinking after 3 straight crappy games, he decides to do a study. So he does this study, probably looking at game film, and realizes that they're not being inventive. They're not being creative. They're not putting players in the best positions to move the ball in the second half. It's the offensive play calling is what he's saying without saying it. And they asked him then, well, what about that drive at the end where, it was 2nd and 2. He goes, yeah, we ran, it was 2nd down and 2, and we ran 3 straight pass plays. And he's like, we weren't successful in the first play, so we ran something similar. In other words, they're not creative. We weren't being creative. And he goes, and I have to blame myself. Now, what he didn't say is what he's blaming himself for. Is he blaming himself for allowing 3 straight pass plays? Or is he blaming himself because he called those 3 pass plays? Or is it because he didn't get on the horn with the offensive coordinator and say, listen, mix it up? So he's blaming him. He's taking the blame, but he didn't tell us what he's taking the blame for. So there's some disconnects going on that coaching staff.
Yeah. Look, do you remember the playoff game against Houston?
Mm-hmm.
I know when I think of that game, one of the things I think of is, the second half, those awful sacks, which knocked them out of field goal range. And then even the second half, really, that Houston had the second half of the game. I think we did another bad third quarter, and then we were able to score a little bit. But anyway, when you were talking about creativity, going into that game, one of the Bills had a few games where they were having trouble in the red zone. Not all year, but in the later half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And first time they get in the red zone, Dable comes out with this dipsy dude. The whole backfield does this spin. They turn around, shift positions, snap the ball, boom, touchdown. He came up with something there to get over that hump.
Yeah.
The first time we're in the red zone, we're going to use this play. No one's expecting it. No one's ever seen it before. And that's going to get us past that. We'll then put it behind us. It's time for this offensive staff to do something. It has to be dipsy do. But whether it's some offensive red zone calls that they haven't used before. The other thing, look, they were 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2. They never tried for a first down. They consistently just tried for the end zone.
Right.
I mean, they were within the 10 or whatever. So I mean, they were within 10 yards, inside the 10-yard line. Just once. Get the effing first down. And you got 4 more shots.
Mm-hmm. Well, I watching the videos, it was clear that the defense on Minnesota, the defense on the Jets, defense in Green Bay knew what was coming. When we're lining up in a play, it's not like we've seen this before, but they're going to do some variation on it. It's like we've seen this before, so now we know exactly what they're going to do.
All right. I hear you. All right, so let's bring it back around to Cleveland game.
Okay. All right. So I still think the Bills offense is going to be able to do enough. I think the Bills defense that have gotten pounded the last couple of weeks, not in the score, but in yardage, is going to focus on shutting down the run and force Jacoby Brissett to try and beat them. And I think that's what we're going to see the defense take. At least that's the way I would approach it. I would force Jacoby Brissett to be the hero against my quarterback, Josh Allen.
All right. So here's the thing. Now, something I don't think you know. This week, AJ White was waived from the team he was with.
Who's that?
AJ White? Maybe I'm saying the name wrong. The former linebacker for the Bills. I'm saying it wrong.
Klein?
Klein, not White. Klein. I got JG White.
You got a problem with names. Yeah, I know. It's not your fault. It's just you got kicked in the head when you were a kid. You know, you're not really my brother. They just found you. You might look like me, but that's just all coincidence.
The Bills claimed him today.
They picked up AJ Klein.
Claimed him off waivers. So I don't know how. I don't know. I have not heard. I do not know if Jermaine Edmonds has been making progress, if he's going to be able to play or not. We know Milano played last week, and as far as I know, I think they're being careful with Milano, but I think he's able to go.
Mm-hmm. I think Poyer's going to go too.
He apparently was practicing this week.
Yeah.
Apparently was practicing. So, all right, hopefully.
And Rousseau as well.
That's fantastic.
Gregory Rousseau back in there.
There's a chance we could be healthier. That is good.
Yeah, absolutely. They did ask McBean about Trey White. They asked him, they said, why isn't he in yet? Is it more of a mental thing that he's not ready to come back? Or is it more of a physical thing? Did you see this?
Yeah.
And he is like, he wouldn't commit, but he just said he's just not ready.
Yeah,
apparently he's not ready.
Well, you know what? The way he said it was leading people to believe the training staff has cleared him. but
Hmm.
the player is saying he's not ready.
Hmm.
Now, that's fine. He's a professional player. He knows his body. Um, so that's also explains why they didn't put him back on IR because I think
Hmm.
they expected him to be ready to go by now.
Yeah.
Because they could have taken him off.
Hmm.
If you put him back on before you take him off, he's done for the season. So you got to take him off, and then you can put him back on if you need to. Protect him for another 4 weeks. And they didn't do that because I think they thought he'd be back. And I was a little disappointed with the Bills. Like they could have told us that he was going to go on IR back in preseason, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They chose to keep that secret. And I can't imagine that a team that they're playing against thought one way or another of it, especially since he hadn't played all preseason. So they kept it a secret just for secret's sake.
Well, I'm
But
hoping we're going to see him on Thanksgiving Day, is what I'm thinking. That's really what I'm hoping. It'll be 1 year to the time that he was injured. He'll be playing in a dome, and then he'll have like 10 days after to heal from that game.
it'll be interesting to
It'll be a perfect time for him. He could play on Thanksgiving and then have 10 more days before he has to play again. And that would be.
when he comes back
Mhm.
after this. I'm going to say an extended absence, right? 'Cause,
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see how he actually plays.
Yeah.
If you can tell he's been affected, if he's just not himself yet.
Mhm.
Here are sometimes that it takes a year, 2 years for them to feel back
Yeah.
like their old self, but it'll be interesting. We may not be getting the Trey White we are hoping for, but any help would be better. Like any help is going to be appreciated. All
Yeah,
right.
maybe you put him in for a series or two, see how he feels, and take it from there. How you feeling, Trey? What do you think? Did you get enough warm up? You want to sit out till the next game, but get him back on the field and see how it goes.
Apparently, well, getting the gist on the radio today, it sounded like there were a couple of people who suspected the game might get moved,
Mm-hmm.
and they were upset because they had bet the over.
Mm.
And the over was down to like 43 or so, 44.
Mm-hmm.
They bet the over in hopes that it would get moved. Well, the plane got moved, and the sports book canceled all the bets. They weren't going to let anyone take an advantage
Mm-hmm.
because in anticipation of that game getting moved. So they canceled all the bets, and it went back to they put up new lines.
All right, well, what do you think about this game? I think the Bills are going to shut down the run, and I think they're going to be able to cover, and I think they're going to make it a little easier for Josh. And I have no reason why they're not going to be able to score against Cleveland. I'm sorry, yeah, against Cleveland in the red zone. And so, what do you think?
Well, I think this defense has done pretty well under McDermott. Has done pretty well against teams that are kind of one dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that dimension is running or passing, they're pretty good at. If you were one dimensional, they could really take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking that I know Jacoby Brissett's been playing for a little bit, but he isn't. He's not a guy who's going to make every throw on the field.
Yeah.
So I think defensively, I think they're going to be fairly stout. And I actually am looking for more creativity. I'm really thinking that we will see in the red zone and maybe even out of the red zone. We may continue to see what we saw in the first half last week, where he's trying to spread the ball around a bit more, get more people involved.
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know if
it's not like they can't do it. We've seen them do it. So I think if the Bills get up a couple of scores, then we'll be able to tee off and start going after Brissett. Yeah.
All
But
right. Do you want to call a score? You're gonna do a score.
yeah, I think you're going to see the Bills break 30 again.
All right.
And so I'm calling it 31-10.
Oh, 31-10. Okay. So I'm thinking same thing. 32. I'll go 32-17.
Okay.
All right. Brother George, thank you very much.
All right. Good luck. Go Buffalo. Thank you for watching.
If you're in Buffalo, good luck with
You enjoy the beach. I'm going to get on my boat. Maybe I'll sail down there.
Come down the intercoastal. It'd be nice for you.
In the meantime, when we hang up here, I'm going to get back under a blanket in front of my fireplace.
Fair enough. Don't forget the Orange play tomorrow. Syracuse Orange play tomorrow.
Oh, they play tomorrow? Oh, great.
Looking forward to it.
I want to see that.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Go Buffalo.